Alright, back to the action. Solo years 1968 to 1972. After leaving Pink Floyd, Barrett was out of the public eye for a year. In 1969, at the behest of EMI and Harvest Records, he embarked on a brief solo career, releasing 2 solo albums, The Madcap Laughs and Barrett, and a single, Octopus. Some songs, Terrapin, Maisie, and Bob Dylan Blues, reflected Barrett's early interest in the blues. The Madcap Laughs, 1970. After Barrett left Pink Floyd, Jenner quit as their manager. He led Barrett into EMI Studios to record tracks in May that were released on Barrett's first solo album, The Madcap Laughs. However, Jenner said, "I had seriously underestimated the difficulties of working with him." By the sessions of June and July, most of the tracks were in better shape. However, shortly after the July sessions, Barrett broke up with his girlfriend Lindsay Corner and went on a drive around Britain, ending up in psychiatric care in Cambridge. During New Year 1969, Barrett, somewhat recovered, had taken up a tenancy in a flat on Egerton Gardens, South Kensington, London, with the postmodernist artist Dougie Fields. Barrett's flat was so close to Gilmour's that Gilmour could look right into Barrett's kitchen. Deciding to return to music, Barrett contracted EMI and was passed to Malcolm Jones, the head of EMI's new prog rock label, Harvest. After Norman Smith and Jenner declined to produce Barrett's record, Jones produced it. Barrett wanted to recover the recordings made with Jenner. Several of the tracks were improved upon. The sessions with Jones started in April 1969 at EMI Studios. After the first, Barrett brought in friends to help. The Humble Pie drummer Jerry Shirley and I had no idea, Humble Pie drummer. No way! I didn't know that. I had no idea that a person from Humble Pie was a friend of Syd Barrett. That's interesting. And the Willie Wilson, the drummer of Gilmour's old band Joker's Wild, for the following I'm messing up. Okay. For the sessions, Gilmour played bass. Jones said that communicating with Barrett was difficult. It was a case of following him, not playing with him. They were seeing and then playing, so they were always a note behind. A few tracks on the album feature overdubs by members of Soft Machine. During this time, Barrett also played guitar on the sessions for the Soft Machine founder Kevin Ayers' debut LP, Joy of a Toy. Although his performance on Religious Experience, later titled Singing a Song in the Morning, was not released until the album was reissued in 2003. At one point, Barrett told his flatmate that he was going for an afternoon drive, but followed Pink Floyd to Ibiza. According to legend, he skipped check-ins and customs, ran onto the runway, and attempted to flag down a jet. One of his friends, J. Ryan Eves, the bass player for the short-lived but influential Manchester band York's Ensemble, spotted him on a beach wearing dirty clothes and with a carrier bag full of money. During the trip, Barrett asked Gilmour for help in the recording sessions. After 2 of the Gilmour/Water produced sessions, they remade 1 track from the Soft Machine overdubs and recorded 3 tracks. These sessions came to a minor halt when Gilmour and Waters were mixing Pink Floyd's new album Ummagumma. However, through the end of July, they managed to record 3 more tracks. The problem with recording was that the songs were recorded as Barrett played them live in the studio. On the released versions, a number of them have false starts and commentaries from Barrett. Despite the track being closer to complete and better produced, Gilmour and Waters left the Jones-produced track Opal off Madcap. Gilmour later said of the sessions from the Madcap Laughs, "The sessions were pretty torturous and very rushed. We had very little time, particularly with the Madcap Laughs. Syd was very difficult. We got that very frustrated feeling. Look, it's your fucking career, mate. Why don't you get your finger out and do something?" The guy was in trouble, and he was a close friend for many years before then, so it was really the least one could do. Upon the album's release in January 1970, Jones was shocked by the substandard musicianship on the songs produced by Gilmour and Waters. "I felt angry. It's like dirty linen in public and very unnecessary and unkind." Gilmour said, "Perhaps we were trying to show what Syd was really like, but perhaps we were trying to punish him." Waters was more positive. "Syd is a genius." Barrett said, "It's quite nice, but I'd be very surprised if it did anything if Oh, it's quite nice, but I'd be very surprised if it did anything if I were to drop dead. I don't think it would stand as my last statement." It's a shame. The second album, Barrett, was recorded more sporadically. The sessions taking place between February and July 1970. The album was produced by Gilmour and featured Gilmour on bass guitar, Richard Wright on keyboard, and humble pie drummer Jerry Shirley. The first two songs attempted were for Barrett to play and or sing to an existing backing track. However, Gilmour thought they were losing the Barrettness. On one track, Rats, was originally recorded with Barrett on his own. That would later be overdubbed by musicians despite the changing tempos. Shirley said of Barrett's playing, "He would never play the same tune twice. Sometimes Syd couldn't play anything that made sense. Other times what he'd play was absolute magic." At times Barrett, who experienced synesthesia, would say, "Perhaps we could make the middle darker and maybe the end bit middle afternoonish. At the moment it's too windy and icy." I kind of get what he's saying. I think I experience a bit of synesthesia myself. So I kind of know what it's like. Sometimes the music do be windy and icy. Sometimes it do be a little bit middle afternoonish. Sometimes it be a bit dark. You know how it is. These sessions were happening while Pink Floyd had just begun to work on Atom Heart Mother. On various occasions, Barrett went to spy on the band as they recorded their album. Wright said of the Barrett sessions, "Doing Syd's record was interesting, but extremely difficult. Dave and Roger did the first one, The Madcap Laughs, and Dave and myself did the second one. But by then it was just trying to help Syd in any way we could. Rather than worrying about getting the best guitar sound, you could forget about that. It was just going into the studio and trying to get him to sing." Performances. Despite the numerous recording dates for his solo albums, Barrett undertook very little musical activity between 1968 and 1972 outside the studio. On the 24th of February 1970, he appeared on John Peel's BBC radio program Top Gear, playing 5 songs, only one of which had been previously released. 3 would be re-recorded for the Barrett album, while the song Two of a Kind was a one-off performance, possibly written by Richard Wright. I wish people actually knew whether or not Syd wrote that song, because I do love Two of a Kind. I wish that people knew. Was it written by Syd or Richard? I don't know. I wish people knew. Barrett was accompanied on this session by Gilmour and Shirley, who played bass and percussion, respectively. Gilmour and Shirley also backed Barrett for his one and only live concert during this period. The gig took place on the 6th of June 1970 at the Olympia Exhibition Hall as a part of a music and fashion festival. The trio performed 4 songs: Terrapin, Gigolo Aunt, Effervescing Elephant, and Octopus. Poor mixing left the vocals barely audible until partway through the last number. At the end of the 4th song, Barrett unexpectedly but politely put down his guitar and walked off stage. The performance has been bootlegged. Barrett made one last appearance on BBC Radio, recording 3 songs at their studios on the 16th of February 1971. All 3 came from the Barrett album. After this session, he took a hiatus from his music career that lasted more than 1 year, although in an extensive interview with Mick Rock and Rolling Stone in December, he discussed himself at length, showed off his new 12-string guitar, talked about touring with Jimi Hendrix, and stated that he was frustrated in terms of his musical work because of his inability to find anyone good to play with. Later years, 1972 to 2006. In February 1972, after a few guest spots in Cambridge with ex-Pink Fairies member Twink on drums and Jack Monk on bass using the name The Last Minute Put Together Boogie Band, backing visiting blues musician. I don't have to read all that, that's in parentheses. The trio formed a short-lived band called Stars. Although they were initially well received at gigs in the Dandelion Coffee Bar and the town's Market Square, one of their gigs at the Corn Exchange in Cambridge with MC5 proved to be disastrous. A few days after this final show, Twink recalled that Barrett stopped him on the street, showed him a scathing review of the gig they had played, and quit on the spot, despite having played at least one subsequent gig at the same venue supporting Nectar. I don't know what Nectar is. Oh, okay. In a 1975 interview, Barrett mentions listening to Taj Mahal and Captain Beefheart. That's interesting. Taj Mahal. I do not know much about this person. I do know a bit about Captain Beefheart. It's interesting that Syd knows about that. Free from his EMI contract on the 9th of May 1972, Barrett signed a document that ended his association with Pink Floyd and any financial interest in future recordings. He attended an informal jazz and poetry performance by Pete Brown and former Cream bassist Jack Bruce in October 1973. Brown arrived at the show late and saw that Bruce was already on stage, along with a guitarist I vaguely recognized, playing the Horace Silver tune "Doodlin'." Later in the show, Brown read out a poem which he dedicated to Syd because he's here in Cambridge and he's one of the best songwriters in the country, when to his surprise the guitar player from earlier in the show stood up and said, "No, I'm not." By the end of 1973, Barrett had returned to live in London, staying at various hotels and, in December of that year, settling in at Chelsea Cloisters. He had little contact with others apart from his regular visits to his management's offices to collect his royalties and the occasional visit from his sister Rosemary. In August 1974, Jenner persuaded Barrett to return to Abbey Road Studios in hope of recording another album. According to John Leckel, who engineered these sessions, even at this point Syd still looked like he did when he was younger, long-haired. The sessions lasted 3 days and consisted of blues rhythm tracks with tentative and disjointed guitar overdubs. Barrett recorded 11 tracks, the only one of which to be titled was "If You Go, Don't Be Slow." Once again, Barrett withdrew from the music industry, but this time for good. He sold the rights to his solo albums back to the record label and moved to a London hotel. During this period, several attempts to employ him as a record producer were fruitless. Wish You Were Here sessions. Barrett visited the members of Pink Floyd in 1975 during the recording sessions for their 9th album, Wish You Were Here. He attended the Abbey Road session unannounced and watched the band working on the final mix of Shine On You Crazy Diamond, a song about him. Barrett, then 29, was overweight and had shaved off all his hair, including his eyebrows, and his former bandmates did not initially recognize him. Barrett spent part of the session brushing his teeth. Waters asked him what he thought of the song, to which Barrett responded, "Sounds a bit old." He is reported to have briefly attended the reception for Gilmore's wedding to Ginger that immediately followed recording sessions, but Gilmore said he had no recollection of this. A few years later, Waters saw Barrett in the department store Harrods. Barrett ran away, dropping his bags, which Waters said were filled with candy. It was the last time any member of Pink Floyd saw him. Withdrawal to Cambridge. In 1978, when Barrett's money ran out, he moved back to Cambridge to live with his mother. He returned to live in London for a few weeks in 1982, but soon returned to Cambridge permanently. Barrett walked the 50 miles from London to Cambridge. Until his death, he received royalties from his work with Pink Floyd. Gilmour said, "I made sure the money got to him." In 1996, Barrett was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a member of Pink Floyd. He did not attend the ceremony. According to the biographer and journalist Tim Willis, Barrett, who had reverted to using his birth name Roger, continued to live in his late mother's semi-detached home and returned to painting, creating large abstract canvases. He was also an avid gardener. His main point of contact with the outside world was his sister Rosemary, who lived nearby. He was reclusive and his physical health declined as he had stomach ulcers and type 2 diabetes. Although Barrett had not appeared or spoken in public since the mid-1970s, reporters and fans traveled to Cambridge seeking him, despite public appeals from his family to stop. Apparently, Barrett did not like being reminded about his musical career, and other members of Pink Floyd had no direct contact with him. However, he did visit his sister's house in November of 2001 to watch the BBC omnibus documentary made about him. Reportedly, he found some of it a bit noisy, enjoyed seeing Mike Leonard again, calling him his teacher, and enjoyed hearing C. Emily play. Barrett made a final public acknowledgement of his musical past in 2002, his first since the 1970s, when he autographed 320 copies of Psychedelic Renegades, a book by photographer Mick Rock, which contained a number of photographs of Barrett. Rock had conducted Barrett's final interview in 1971 before his retirement from the music industry, and Barrett visited Rock in London several times for tea and conversation in 1978. They had not spoken in more than 20 years when Rock approached Barrett to autograph his book, and Barrett uncharacteristically agreed. Having reverted to his birth name, he autographed the book Barrett. Death and Tributes. Barrett died at home in Cambridge on the 7th of July 2006, aged 60, from pancreatic cancer. He was cremated at a funeral held at Cambridge Crematorium on the 18th of July 2006. No Pink Floyd members attended. Can you believe that? None of them attended his funeral. What the fuck? I mean, what, were they too busy? This is Syd we're talking about. Gee whiz. I mean, this is Syd. You won't come to Syd's funeral? In a statement, Wright said, "The band are very naturally upset and sad to hear of Syd Barrett's death. Syd was the guiding light of the early band lineup and leaves a legacy which continues to inspire." Gilmour said, Do find time to play some of Syd's songs and to remember him as the madcap genius who made us all smile with his wonderfully eccentric songs about bikes, gnomes, and scarecrows. His career was painfully short, yet he touched more people than he could ever know. NME produced a tribute issue to Barrett a week later with a photo of him on the cover. In an interview with the Sunday Times, Barrett's sister, Rosemary Breen, said that he had written an unpublished book about the history of art. According to local newspapers, Barrett left approximately £1.7 million to his 4 siblings, largely acquired from royalties from Pink Floyd compilations and live recordings featuring Barrett's songs. A tribute concert, Madcap's Last Laugh, was held at Barbican Centre, London, on the 10th of May 2007, with Barrett's bandmates and Robin Hitchcock Captain Sensible, Damon Albarn, Chrissy Hind, I guess, and Kevin Ayers, I guess. I don't know how to say all of those names. I'm sorry. Um, Gilmore, Wright, and Mason performed the Barrett compositions Bike and Arnold Lane, and Waters performed a solo version of his song Flickering Flame. In 2006, Barrett's home in St. Margaret's Square, Cambridge, was put on the market and attracted considerable interest. After over 100 showings to many to fans, it was sold to a French couple who knew nothing about Barrett. Isn't that funny? I think that's okay. I think it's okay. It's okay, people can have his house. Um I think it's just a bit humorous. On the 28th of November 2006, Barrett's other possessions were sold at an auction at Cheffin's Auction House in Cambridge, raising £120,000 for charity. Items sold included paintings, scrapbooks, and everyday items that Barrett had decorated. A series of events called the City Wakes was held in Cambridge in October of 2008 to celebrate Barrett's life, art, and music. Breen supported this, the first series of official events in memory of her brother. After the festival's success, arts charity Escape Artists announced plans to create a center in Cambridge using art to help people with mental health problems. A memorial bench was placed in the Botanic Gardens in Cambridge, and a more prominent tribute was planned in the city. Legacy compilations. In 1988, EMI Records released an album of Barrett's studio outtakes and previously unreleased material recorded from 1968 to 1970 under the title Opal. The disc was originally set to include the unreleased Barrett Pink Floyd songs Scream Thy Last Scream and Vegetable Man, which had been remixed for the album by Jones, but the band pulled the two songs before Opal was finalized. In 1993, EMI issued another release, Crazy Diamond, a boxed set of all three albums, each with further outtakes from his solo sessions that illustrated Barrett's inability or refusal to play a song the same way twice. EMI also released the best of Syd Barrett, Wouldn't You Miss Me, in the UK on the 16th of April 2001, and in the US on the 11th of September 2001. That's the day of 9/11. Holy shit. September 11th, 2001, right? That's 9/11, right? When did 9/11 happen? Yep. Yeah. Sorry for going away for a second. Here I come. I'm coming back. Here I am. Okay. Sorry about that. I just wanted to check to see when 9/11 happened because I was like, am I tripping? Am I tripping right? Like is this correct or not? Yeah, it was that was released on the day of 9/11. So yeah, I was right. Yay for me! I was right. Yay! Celebrating. Wee woo. Okay. Anyway, this was the first time his song Bob Dylan Blues was officially released, taken from a demo tape that Gilmore had kept after an early 1970s session. Gilmore kept the tape, which also contains the unreleased Living Alone from the Barrett sessions. Man, I want to hear that song. I want to hear every Barrett song. Every Syd Barrett song should be released. Let me hear them. Let me hear them. I love Syd Barrett. He's my friend. He's my friend. We be talking telepathically. We be speaking telepathically. In October 2010, Harvest/EMI and Capitol Records released an introduction to Syd Barrett, a collection of both his Pink Floyd and remastered solo work. In 2010, a compilation, An Introduction to Syd Barrett, includes the downloadable bonus track Ramadan, a 20-minute track recorded at one of Syd's earliest solo sessions in May 1968. In 2011, it was announced that a vinyl double album version would be issued for Record Store Day. Bootleg editions of Barrett's live and solo material exist. For years, the off-air recordings of the BBC sessions with Barrett's Pink Floyd circulated, until an engineer who had taken a tape of the early Pink Floyd gave it back to the BBC, which played it during a tribute to John Peel on their website. During this tribute, the first Peel program was aired in its entirety. This show featured the 1967 live versions of Flaming, Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun, and a brief 90-second snippet of the instrumental Reaction in G. In 2012, engineer Andy Jackson said that he had found a huge box of assorted tapes in Mason's possession containing versions of R&B songs that Pink Floyd played in their early years. Creative impact. Barrett wrote most of Pink Floyd's early material, and their producer, Norman Smith, compared him favorably with... Sorry, I'm checking the time. We'll try to get through this. With John Lennon in his memoir, Syd Barrett could write like John. I've seen it before. He wasn't quite as good as John, and I am talking about Syd on top form with See Emily Play. But he would have developed, definitely. In time he would have got even better. Jimmy Page never saw Barrett play with the Floyd, but was a fan of the early group's music, telling an interviewer, Syd Barrett's writing with the early Pink Floyd was inspirational. Nothing sounded like Barrett before Pink Floyd's first album. There were so many ideas and positive statements. You can really feel the genius there, and it was tragic that he fell apart. Both he and Jimi Hendrix had a futuristic vision in a sense. I'm cracking my neck. Let me crack my knuckles too. Crack, crack, crack. Pop, pop, pop. I do what I want. Okay. According to critic Stephen Hayden, even after Barrett left the band, Barrett's spirit haunted their records, and their most popular work drew on the power of what Barrett signified. I think I can agree with that. Barrett was an innovative guitarist, using extended techniques and exploring the musical and sonic possibilities of dissonance, distortion, feedback, and the echo machine, tapes, and other effects. His experimentation was partly inspired by free improvisation guitarist Keith Rowe of the group AMM, active at the time in London. Yeah, my book about Syd Barrett really talks a lot about AMM. I think. So, yeah. It talks a lot about them. Rowe would lay the guitar flat on the table and, among other things, would run ball bearings, metal rulers, coins, or knives along the strings. AMM and Pink Floyd played several gigs together from early 1966 to early 1967, and Barrett even attended the recording session for the group's debut album, AMM Music. In June 1966, one of Barrett's trademarks was playing his guitar through an old echo box while sliding a Zippo lighter up and down the fretboard to create the mysterious, otherworldly sounds that became associated with the group. Barrett was known to have used Binson delay units to achieve his trademark echo sounds. David Allen, founder member of Soft Machine and Gong, cited Barrett's use of slide guitar with echo as a key inspiration for his own glissando guitar style. Barrett's recordings, both with Pink Floyd and in later solo albums, were delivered with a strongly British accented vocal delivery, specifically that of Southern England. He was described by Guardian writer Nick Kent as having a quintessential English style of vocal projection. Yes, yeah, I would agree with that. David Bowie said that Barrett, along with Anthony Newley, was the first person he had heard sing rock or pop music with a British accent. Barrett's free-form sequences of sonic carpets. Oh, sorry guys, I have to end this.